Alright, so we just got some news that honestly comes at a little bit of a shock to me, because I always thought that this was a thing that Sega had to deal with. I thought it was more of a them problem, but Nintendo, who kind of used to be immune to this, has now found themselves under the same problem, it seems. So if you've been in the trenches of Twitter recently, which good luck to you in that place, like pretty much our version of World War III, but if you've been in the trenches of Twitter, you know that Sega fans versus Nintendo fans has been a common trope. And right now, they're at odds because they have been comparing Skyward Sword HD to Sonic Colors Ultimate. And basically the argument is which one is the better remastering in a sense. I mean, Skyward Sword is basically, I don't want to say a straight port, but in terms of visuals, it feels like an up-res and frame rate bump. But then again, a lot of companies have called that a remaster, and there's a lot of people who would have wanted Sonic Colors Ultimate to just be a straight up-res and frame rate bump, and they would have been fine, right? Because putting in a whole new engine means they have to try even harder to just get the visuals to look like the way they did in the original game, which in and of itself has turned off a lot of people who love the original game. Nonetheless, I'm not here to debate whether Colors Ultimate looks better or worse than the original. That's a whole separate debate, and frankly, I don't care that much because it's just colors. But I'm here to talk about re-releasing games and the effect it has on the perception of those games. Now, I have talked about this before in my The Colors Come Down video, and I said that most likely Colors Ultimate was going to get lower review scores than the original Colors, because that just tends to happen with Sega games, right? It happened with Sonic Adventure DX to SA1, happened with Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and even multiple re-releases of SADX got lower and lower scores. It happened with the classics as well. When they got re-released, they got lower scores. It's a common trope, so I expected it. But it seems like it might be worse than I thought it was gonna be, because even Nintendo, who used to be immune, and I mean they were fucking immune to this shit, even they are starting to feel it now. So if you don't already know, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword was a Nintendo Wii game that came out in 2011. It was a game that was praised by the critics and fans alike. I mean, some fans didn't like it as much, but it was a well-received game. It was within what Nintendo usually puts out in terms of quality. It got a decent 8.1 user score on Metacritic, and the critics gave it universal acclaim, Metacritic must play, 93 out of 100. That's pretty good for a Zelda game, right? That's pretty good for any game, let's be real. But unfortunately, Skyward Sword HD, the remaster coming to Switch, which is pretty much dropping tomorrow. If you're watching this tomorrow, then today. If you're watching this the day after, then yes. You get what I mean. It's coming out on the 16th of July. Skyward Sword HD was not subject to the same love. Of course, the game's not out yet, so we haven't got the user scores yet, but the critics, they're definitely not cutting Skyward Sword the slack that it got when it first came out. I say slack because there were some issues that people excused back then. I mean, it was a Wii game after all, like, let's be real. But they're not getting the same slack that they got before, because The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD on Switch only got an 82. That's an 11-point drop. A whole full, if it's out of 10, that's a whole full point and then some drop just by remastering the game. And let's be real, people don't know how to review remasters, right? Because you get a bunch of people reviewing it in different ways. People that played the original are comparing it to the original, and pretty much all the people doing that are saying it's better than the original version. It's a good remaster. It's like the definitive version out of the two, right? But then you've also got the other people, the people that didn't play the original version, who are now playing this version for the first time. A game that is of course full price, and they don't know what they're getting into because they haven't played the original version. And if they're Zelda fans, what they're gonna do, right? They're gonna compare it to the Zelda games they've played recently. So if you got into the series through, say, Breath of the Wild, which got like a 97 out of 100, even higher than Skyward Sword, and it's a more modern game, it's an open world game, it's done a lot more since the 6 years before when Skyward Sword came out, they're gonna be looking at that level of quality and thinking, we paid full price for that, and now here comes Skyward Sword HD, which is a Wii game and still looks like a Wii game graphically, although up-res, they're running at 60 FPS now, which Colors Ultimate can't even do on Switch. But now they want us to pay the same $60 for this that we paid for Breath of the Wild, and then those reviews get really nasty. So a lot of the review scores dropping comes from people that are comparing it to things like Breath of the Wild, because I mean, hey, it's the same price, right? And it's come out after Breath of the Wild, right? So I guess we should compare it to that and say, well, I don't think it holds up today, you know, for a 2021 game at full price. You know, if you were judging in 2011, would have had a different opinion, but you know, and I guess it's natural, right? You remaster an old game, people are gonna compare it to what's come after. You could say it's because of the $60 thing, but even if it was $40, people would have still compared it to Breath of the Wild. Let's be real. That's what people do. And it's naturally going to affect the scores of the game. But an 11-point drop is definitely a lot more than I was expecting. Like maybe a few points or so. Like, according to the reviews, there are quality of life updates added to the game besides the resolution and the frame rate bump. Now, I haven't played Skyward Sword, so I'm not going to get too in depth. I saw the Nintendo Life review. They were mentioning quite a few quality of life updates that, to me, looking at these reviews, made it seem like this was definitely the definitive version of the game. So there was no debate on that. Simply just it being compared to its peers in gaming and even its own peers within its own franchise has caused a drop within 11 points. If you look at 3D World on the Wii U versus 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, that went from 93 on the Wii U down to an 89 on Switch, a 4-point drop, and that added a whole Bowser's Fury mode. Like, that was a whole basically new game in there. It took me like 5 hours to beat Bowser's Fury the first time on stream, which I streamed on my non-Sonic channel, link in the description. But yeah, they still had to suffer a 4-point drop, dropping a port plus some new content in a post-Odyssey world. Luckily, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was not subject to this, because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe went up by 4 points, but that's because Mario Kart 8 was lacking in some serious ways. The battle mode was there even a battle mode in the original one? It was mid. The fact that Mario Kart 8 only let you have one power-up at a time was really fucking annoying, coming from a franchise that let you have two, because you could always hold one behind, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe fixed that. Combined with the fact that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe included all the DLC that they were slowly drip feeding us through the Mario Kart 8 era, including 200cc and whatnot. So it kind of makes sense that Deluxe was going to get received better. They couldn't really compare it to their peers in that sense, because if we look at the grand scope of gaming, Mario Kart 8 was pretty much the best kart racer at the time in which it came out, and Deluxe was the best kart racer at the time in which that came out. The only real contender is CTR, which is not as casual friendly, so I can see why the reviews are not plummeting, because it's not like we can point to this kart racer has come out and has superseded this and that's coming. No, there's nothing. But yeah, to reel this back into our Lord and Savior, the Sonic the Hedgehog, because I know that's why you're here. If you're still here, you might have clicked off because I've been talking too much about Zelda and Mario and Nintendo. But for Colors Ultimate, a game that we can't even fully decide is visually superior to the original. Just straight visuals, not like resolution frame rate, but like straight visuals. We are still debating on whether it looks better because of them having to put in a whole new engine instead of just doing a straight port upres. That's already a negative. Combined with the fact that they couldn't even get it to run at 60 FPS on Switch, it was not going to be good for the Switch reviews, let's be real. But yeah, it got 60 FPS and everything else, cool. And they did add a few things like the Metal Sonic races, I guess, and the skins, and they added tail save. So there's a few, I guess, if you call that quality of life, there's some quality of life updates. I don't think tail save is a quality. I think it's a downgrade, but that's my opinion. At the end of the day, they added a few things, but it's not like they added significantly more than what Skyward Sword HD added. Are we looking at a potential 10+ point drop for Sonic Colors to Sonic Colors Ultimate? I mean, the original Colors got a 78 on Metacritic, right? Anything more than a 4-point drop is going to be detrimental, because like, according to Metacritic rules, 75 and above is considered good. Anything under that is like mixed, and then if you go even further, then it becomes like poor. So for them to drop from 78 to 75, at least it's still in the good category. When it starts getting to 74, 3, 2, 1, or even the 60s, if it was to do an 11-point drop and go from 78 to 67, that's not going to be a good look for Colors Ultimate. At this point, the only real benefit they have against Skyward Sword HD is the fact that it's cheaper. But I mean, Colors is a game that can be beaten in like 4 to 5 hours, and Skyward Sword is a game that takes like 30+ hours to beat, at least on the first playthrough. So I mean, we know that what's really going to happen is they're going to compare it to its peers. They're going to compare it to other platformers you can get for around $45 and say, is this truly worth it? And even amongst Sonic games themselves, I mean, I guess there hasn't been that many games since Colors within our franchise that has been better than Colors, which is not me praising Colors, just me really just saying we didn't get much after. Like, Generations is the only thing that comes to mind in terms of the 3D Sonic games, and then of course Mania for the 2D. I was fine with Lost World, I guess, but ultimately, yeah, it's like Gens and Mania was really it in terms of things that we could say were better than Colors after Colors came out. And even Gens reviewed slightly worse than Colors. I guess people weren't as happy with it. I don't know, like, reviewers are a bit different. Not even just reviewers, the users as well gave Colors a higher Metacritic score than Generations. So I don't really know how far it could potentially drop. We're just gonna have to see if what they've added is enough to maintain its score. At this point, I'll be surprised thoroughly if their score even goes up, because if 3D World Bowser's Fury added a whole Bowser's Fury mode and still got a point drop, Skyward Sword HD got a point drop, I still feel like Colors Ultimate will be lucky to even maintain its score at this rate. Yeah, there hasn't really been much within Sonic that's superseded Colors since it came out for them to be like, oh, in comparison to the amazing forces, Colors doesn't compare. Like, they don't have that under their sleeve to worry about. But still, like, for $45, you can cop Insane Trilogy. Crash 4 at this point's probably dropped in price to that. Way less than that. I swear Crash 4 dropped to like $30 or some shit. A Hat in Time came out. Odyssey came out. Like, obviously, within the context of 3D platformers, there's been a lot of better ones since Colors came out, and I don't know how much that's going to affect the score. Obviously, I'll be expecting a bigger drop on the Switch version because of the fact that it's 30 FPS, and most people aren't going to make excuses for that, especially in the context of a remaster, right? Like, I don't know how many games get remastered and still run at 30 FPS. FPS. Like, let's come on. So I guess we'll see what happens. We've got about less than 2 months until the game comes out. We'll see how far the points drop. Hopefully we can still keep it above 75. I mean, I'm not really a fan of colors, so if it drops further, I mean, I'm not gonna cry or anything, but I feel like it doing well might help us get more ports or more ultimate editions of games, which is what I want to see. Because if they can hurry up and get colors done, then they can move on to gens, and then they can finally move on to Unleash, which is what I actually want to see. But at the same time, if it drops, maybe they'll think, okay, maybe people don't want this gameplay anymore and we should do something else, which would also be nice. I don't know, but I guess we'll find out in a few months. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this situation. Do you think the colors ultimate scores are going to drop drastically from the scores of the original Sonic colors, or do you think it will only drop a little bit, or do you think they'll hold the score, or do you believe that the score will go up? Do you think they've done enough to make the game increase in review value, even relative to the games that have been coming out recently? Be much to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. Make sure to check out the non-Sonic channel. The link will be in the description. But that's all I have to say right now. So, Premy out.